Over on Reddit, the user Nola Demon43 has actually posted quite an impressive feat. As some of you may know, previously, operatives, grand strategists from the Psycho Origin had cleared the game solo unfair. Post DLC 1, I had cleared the game solo unfair with a Psycho Blade Dancer Executioner, and now Nola has added to the list a Psycho Warrior Vanguard. Nola has gone to great details to explain this solo run based on what they built, their actual character sheet, which they've used one of my templates for, and they've gone through and explained all the talents and why they have picked them. They've also gone through and explained how they've got through Act 1, whilst also linking some YouTube videos. Now, I read this and I was actually quite inspired. I was actually very proud to see another member of the community had taken the time to learn the game to this level and to actually do it. Nola admits in the post that they might not have taken the easiest route and it required a little bit of kiting, but even if they went the other way to be slightly higher levels, they would have still needed to do the same level of kiting, so their actual route choice is absolutely fine. They had picked Steel of the Forge to get round Aurora, because the only other way to do it was what I did was with Blood Oath and using Desperate Measures to get him that way in one turn Aurora, but what Nola decided to do was to use Daring Breach 3 to create priority and then to use that to beat Aurora, and using stuff like Burning Blood to keep up the AoE damage. This was quite an expressive way to do it, and it's actually quite a good way to do it. Nola went into great details explaining the Act 1 for how the Psycho Warrior made it through, and also showed off some Act 4. Now, the one thing that I am most worried about is Act 2 on this run. So the hardest breakpoints in the game are going to be the Chaos Spawn, the Rykad Majora's fight with the Agitators, Aurora, Bloody Amelia as soon as you get to Football, Cinder, the Daemon Engine, and most of Act 2 is not as much of a challenge because you can change the order you do it. Some of the things like the Forge World when we go to Kiva Gamma will be quite tedious, but overall it'll be quite easy. And being a Pyromancer, even if you're not investing into Perception, you can work around that area quite well. With the added benefit of power armor in Act 3, that can be completely trivialized by any build that can have access to power armor. Looking through this, yep, Nola had gone for a Pyromancy shield build, but there was one thing that really drew my attention. Nola had decided to do this as a Vanguard. Looking through Nola's build, one of the things that I noticed is none of the Vanguard kit is actually adding anything here. Nola takes defensive stance really late, so you can't even make the argument for that. Because you're playing solo, it's going to be a few rounds before Beacon of Might's even usable, because it takes up to 15 hits to even get the extra resolve, but it will come into play. The other thing is how slow that you actually gain armor on this build. Looking at this and realizing how Nola did this, the one thing that came to my mind was, I could do this more efficiently with an Arch-Militant. One thing I want to make absolutely crystal clear before I continue with the video is, this is not to take away from Nola's achievement at all. What Nola did is very good, and I would love to see everyone who's watching this video to go and give some support and to give a congratulations on the Reddit post. But one of the things that I've realized is Nola's put a lot of value on what Vanguard does, which is almost nothing if you actually look at it. It's very slow progressing into late rounds to build up momentum, to then be able to do late game, or should I say late turn, Daring Breaches, and then Beacon of Might isn't really adding all that much. The other thing that I noticed looking at this is Nola really values deflection. Part of the post even said that they wanted to prove that deflection was amazing when you heavily invest into it. However, I can do the exact same feat without investing in deflection at all, beyond actually just using, say, the early stuff that you get with thick skin, the natural talents that you pick progressing through, and obviously then taking into consideration that you're going to be going into power armor. So in the background here, I am making a Forge World Subskin Pyromancer that is going to start Santic, and this is to get Destined. This is one of the easiest ways to actually get through it, and naturally I will be a Warrior, and the stat increases I'm going to take is going to be Weapon Skill, because we need that, Strength, because we're going to need that to get Heavy Armor, and of course Toughness, because that is going to be part of our survival. Now, I'm actually genuinely impressed with what Nola's doing in Act 1, so I'm going to use a very, very similar setup. So what Nola's doing is they're taking Destined Steel with the Chaos Spawn, getting thick skins so as your armor goes up, your parry goes up, going straight into get Hardened Scars so your endure can take some a little bit, though we might be able to drop that one now that I think about it when we come to optimizing, getting heavy armor, getting Burning Blood so we can do a little bit of AoE damage, as well as Steel of the Forge. Now, we could very easily drop Hardened Scars for defensive stance, or even potentially go a different way with it, but for now I will leave Hardened Scars as it is, and we're going to actually start talking through some breakpoints and showing off what we do with this build. Now, the first challenge is going to be the Chaos Spawn. There isn't going to be much that you can do about having companions with you at this point, so you can't really get rid of them without Toy Box. So they might eat up at 1 or 2 hits. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. Anyway, I've been lucky on initiative, and I'm going first here, so I push myself up really far. If I wasn't going first, I would be much further back. Now, what I'm going to be wanting to do is try and survive the initial few turns and then pick off all these mobs and then just sort of tanking our way through the Chaos Spawn. The only talent we've been able to pick at this point is Destined, so that's going to be one thing to keep in mind. But every turn we're going to increase in armor to the point where the Chaos Spawn's not really going to be able to damage us. Even if we start getting RNG'd and constantly knocked down, as long as this happens later, once we've picked up armor, it won't be too much of an issue, and there is a lot of Medicae that we have access to. Now, because we're using a shield, we can't also use the Psych Staff. Having access to the Psych Staff would be nice, but one of the things we're going to be using is we're going to be using Starport Defense to try and block and counter attack the Chaos Spawn to get through this a little bit quicker. So, working out where I can actually get to, I've also got the Chainsaw, which I've borrowed off Abelard here, and I'm going to be trying to increase my resolve because, yes, I would like to get a Daring Breach in this encounter. However, as you can see, I am pausing to try and consider if I want to go for the Daring Breach or the Endure. I think at this point I decided that I was definitely going to get hit, so I was going to go for the Endure. So these enemies will be taking their turns, and yeah, the damage is going to be fairly minimal. So Chaos Spawn is still doing about 7 damage, and some of the blocks are keeping about us. These early few hits, if we had got knocked down there, that could have been absolutely devastating. But getting knocked down a little bit later isn't so bad. Now, the Chaos Spawn will attack for opportunity if you go to move away from it. That's why I need to endure before I charge. Although it didn't. Maybe it doesn't have access to attacks for opportunities. Well, colour be wrong. So yes, getting through these enemies is going to be the easy part. We got a little bit lucky and the Chaos Spawn threw his acid over at our allies, but again, like I said, there isn't going to be really much we can do about that. By moving in on these enemies and getting those hits set up, yes, we can finish them off as they try to move away from us to get some more ranged attacks. So that time the Chaos Spawn did get an attack for opportunity. Odd. Well, unfortunately, there's not going to be much I'm going to be able to do with this 1 AP, because as we charged over, we did actually gain a Daring Breach, which means we're going to be able to make a bunch of attacks. Now, I can't make it to this guy that I want to kill. I don't want to buff up the Chaos Spawn by letting him absorb him by hitting the health breakpoint, but I'm pretty confident I'm not going to do that at this point. And the longer you're next to the Chaos Spawn, he will start lowering your stats each turn as part of his ability. Before my last hit, I'm actually going to try and block with Stalwart Defense because, yeah, it'd be nice not to get hit, and then I can finish off that last guy, and then it's just going to be a one-on-one duel with the Chaos Spawn. So as we block, Stalwart Defense gives us an attack back, and the Chaos Spawn is only doing about 3 damage of how much our armor's built up at this point. We still have plenty of Medicae if we want to remove any bleeding, because bleeding does direct damage, so it will ignore our armor. That's going to be one thing you got to be very careful in this run. Our whole survival is based on armor stacking. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with deflection. It's all armor stacking. Alright, so the Chaos Spawn's gone the wrong way, so I need to engage it pretty quickly because I don't want it to waste times attacking against Abelard and Argenta. And mostly now, it's just going to be using Endure, an attack, and then obviously Stalwart Defense. You could be running away from him and trying to hit him, or even trying to use an axe, but as you can see, the axe is going to do less damage, or roughly-ish the same. It's just lower base damage, slightly higher armor pen, but because we're not lowering the armor pen here, the chainsaw I've just found it to be more useful. But yes, this entire section is now mostly going to be this one-on-one man fight. So this little loop that I am going to speed up for the background here is mostly going to be using Endure and then also hitting the boss. You could be running away from it and then running it in to then do your charges. You could probably do this more efficient than I was. This was my first time sort of testing it like this. But basically this one-on-one man fight just kind of went like this until the boss will slowly chip down. A couple of times he did actually knock me down 3 or 4 times in a row, but because I had so much health and so much armor and how tanky I was just able to freely clear off the bleed they'd put on and just carry on going. You can see I've got through a few of those medkits just clearing the bleed, but I probably didn't need to do it as much as I did. As we move into Act 1, I kind of still think that going to Urak first, then the prison, and then Rykad last is the best way to do it, but no matter which way you do it, this encounter is going to suck. So basically what I did here was I decided to just kite back these enemies, hang back as far as I could, start taking some ignite snipes at the enemies and to stop them coming up, because unless you can one-turn the Rebel Agitator, these guys are going to hurt until you get some armor. If you're able to one-turn him, then you could just freely stand in all these enemies and they won't hurt you. If you can't do that, yeah, that sucks. So like I said, my strategy here was to run back, hang around, keep away from them, and just kite them with some ignites. Now, as I said previously with the Chaos Bomb, I didn't even do this the best. I probably could have worked out a better route, but one thing I was very aware of is some of these enemies have knockback, so because we don't have our knockback immunity, getting knocked down can be something that can cause you to chain stun. A way to counteract this is to keep your back to the wall, but if enemies come from your side, they will again knock you down. So I kind of led them in here. You can have grenades at this point if they stack up to try and take them out that way, but you're going to be trying to basically either stack up a lot of them for your stalwart defense, but eventually they will move around you and surround you. You don't have access to a lot of the stuff that would be really great here, so you're going to want to keep those endures up. You're going to also, like I said, try not to get them. Now if I was smart, I would have gone towards them along the wall so they couldn't knock me down. Instead I ran straight into the open where they could most definitely knock me down. Gotta remember that you can't use both attacks, but the shield will be 0 AP. There might even be ways that you could optimize this more to get in dual weapon combat, because you don't really need the psi rating as much early on, but I'll leave that to some other people. This is still not a perfectly optimized build. As you can see, I got clipped to the side there, got knocked down, and then I got rushed, but my armor is continuing to stack. We have made it to turn 8, so it is getting pretty beefy, and I've had to use one of my Medicaid here, but I finally been able to wedge myself back into this corner here, which is going to be the point where they can't hurt me as much. But again, endure up, you will be able to survive most of what they can do, and if you point the enemy's backs to here, this is going to be a prime way that you can do it. You can have the enemies take out themselves, because these guys kind of won't survive their own buddies. So if you can line them up and have the ranged guys take them out for you, you can then push to get to that Rebel Agitator hiding at the back. Smart little fucker that he is. As you can see here, some of them are switching to single shots, other ones are taking burst shots, but we've kind of stacked ourselves up where we're not going to be constantly knocked down. What we're going to have to do is just slowly start using our positioning here to keep our armor up and start taking some things out. I am using the Noble Sword, which I've picked up before, which means that if once I get disturbed on these enemies, I will start increasing my damage. I'm also trying to keep Word of the Emperor up, because eventually I do want to try and get into Daring Breach. Daring Breach is such a fantastically overpowered ability, and it is one that is really helpful. I've even been using things like the Cloak to reduce enemy crit damage, which you can get from some of the DLC content, but not everyone's going to have access to that. But as you can see, these enemies are starting to struggle to damage to deal with me, whilst the other enemies are coming in to shoot. Now, Hardened Scars, like I said, it's adding 1 deflection every time I get hit, so if those range bursts come in, that does help. But if the melee guys are going first, the ordering is not going to be best. As you can see, I probably have a lot of deflection. It's not really adding a whole lot here, but once I do get closer to that 90% armor cap, they're going to really struggle. I use grenade to take out 2 of them so we can start trying to move around them, because it is kind of the melee guys that are hurting us the most here. The range guys are definitely going to be a nuisance, because to an average ally they could be doing 45 damage to that Rebel Agitator on those bursts, but because we've got all of our armor stacked up, yeah, they're going to struggle. They are indeed going to struggle, especially once we got that 90%. Now, we have managed to get to the point where we've got Daring Breach, so it looks like we should be able to start going out and pushing these enemies. I am also going to still try to use Grenade, because that is one of our big damage increases here. I could have saved it for that group of enemies, but I just really wanted to make sure this chap was going to die so I could start moving out. Even here, I probably wasn't even in the best position to do that, and that probably wasn't even the best use of Daring Breach there. So this is just going to be a way to show you guys that you don't have to play perfectly. Luckily, this game is quite forgiving. If I had spent some more time doing this multiple times, I probably could have come up with a better strategy. But yes, those range burst fires are now doing about 3 damage per shot, and yeah, they're going to start to have a whole heap of trouble, because it is now turn 12 going on to turn 13, and I'm ready to get in and just start killing off all of these range guys, because their melee front line's down. I have a lot of armor. Easy peasy, time to get in and start charging some things. Now, I don't have Burning Blood, so I can't do AE by target some things with Ignite, but once I do have access to that, that's going to be quite decent as well. So they're still doing about 2 damage per hit rather than 5 like they were doing, and like I said, that's mostly all coming from the armor. As you can see, each bullet did to one of their allies that didn't have armor around 15. I am having to get through some of these Medicaid just to survive as well. I probably could have planned for more, but I mostly had grenades on. I had planned a very different scenario to take out a lot of these chaps. But we are down to just 1 gunner and 1 rebel agitator. Well, the rebel agitator. Oh boy, we are looking forward to him being dead. Yes, none of his friends have survived, which means he's actually eventually going to just walk over here and choose to give up, because now he only does 1 damage to us, and we are pinning him into the corner. So there is no longer anything he can do with us, and the Rebel Agitator has realised, because if he were to try and move here, yeah, he would actually just take damage. So I can freely move away because he is a melee, ranged character and I am melee, and yep, just finishing the job here. He won't run away from us because he's scared of the attack of opportunity, but yeah, I've got 115% armour. 90% cap, but there's not much else it can do. Easy peasy. Well, not really, there was a lot of cheesing involved here, but yes, that's that second major encounter down. As you move into the Plasma Reactor, so this is where I currently am on the build. I'm using the Power Pick because it's pretty nice. I've also got Veil Render. I'm trying to make sure I stack armor, and if you pick up the buff here, you do have a very nice 75% dodge. Some items you can consider are the Von Volantius Cloak, but I found that obviously you're not going to be at full health. The Xenopelt Cloak is another DLC one that you can consider, and Helm of Determination, but like I didn't quite have the stats to make them more viable. But even the Road Trader's Cloak can help get some momentum by picking up some Fellowship as you're killing things, so whatever you do is going to be up to you, but this is kind of where the build is at this point. You, like I said, really need to be able to kill 1 at a time, yeah, 1 a turn, and you get stuck with Pascal and Yremeryss here, so I'm just running them out. So because this build now has Burning Blood, I can charge in and get some hits, and then I can use something like Ignite, which will not only deal damage, but will have extra damage coming on here. So yeah, you can very quickly take out some dudes. You do want to keep building up your resolve because you're going to need that to be able to get Daring Breach, because before you clear one side of this, you really want Daring Breach. Onslaught is another item that's going to be very useful to help you move up in those early bits and do some extra damage. If you can get 2 of these out, that'd be good, but obviously Slash is fickle, as Slash is always fickle. I think I actually overpush here, and it probably would have been better for me to stay in that crowd of enemies, let them swarm me, and then I could have used Ignite to either self-ignite and then start damaging themselves, so then I could orchestrate flame. So again, another misplay, but this is not perfect gameplay here. Luckily for me, these enemies move up, and I've got my shield ready to go. I'm just moving Pascal and Yremeryss out of the way, because we don't want them to distract these enemies, because this is meant to be solo, but you can't get rid of them here without cheat tools. And I have no idea if it was going to break the flow of the game. Yeah, this game's so buggy, I didn't want to risk just removing them. But as you can see, all these enemies are going to be taking these turns. I am playing Dogmatic, which Iconoclast probably would have been easier in that first bit. Dogmatic's going to be a little bit easier here because of the other Electro Priest. But as you can see, these enemies, they pretty much deal 0 damage to me. I hope Owlcat doesn't get some crazy ideas about how they need to balance from this. But it is nice to be able to see a tank build actually be able to shine, because yeah, you often don't see that because of how much damage everything you do that pushes through, so you don't really need to survive that way. Now I get close to one of these allies, or one of their allies, so I can then Burning Blood to hit the priest and get 2 for 1. Very good bargain sale there. And I've got the Pneumo boots on, so I can get those 1 AP charges. They're going to be very important. Yeah, that sucks that he managed to get that parry, but being able to orchestrate him is going to also be able to put on some Burning Blood. So what is very nice is if you angle these enemies, they will happen to shoot each other. The Electro Beasts, yeah, they'll just be a distraction. They will kind of die fairly easily, but you kind of want them to just be distracting down the bottom there as I'm moving around. That would be nice if that entire side of the map would rush me, so it'd be easier to get to, but if I'm going to the top and they were going to the bottom to go around, that would also be annoying. So we didn't kill an Electro Priest on the second round. We did manage to get one on the first. We have to just keep up with this timer. As long as we can kill the Electro Piece, we can take our time to clear the rest of the map. So whilst killing other things is going to be very good, and like I said, I do feel like I did misplay slightly by not taking them out earlier, but yeah, we did get them through quite quickly. Now, if you have DLC 3, you can get a couple of little stims. That's where I've got these stims from, and that's actually going to be very useful for me to actually push in a little bit deeper than I would have been able to otherwise. And getting close and using those ignites to proc those burning bloods, also going to be very good. I'm even going to try to get to the other side here so I can get some more enemies with burning blood. And yeah, I'm also going to activate my Word of the Emperor. Ignite this man, which also killed the other one. Fortunately, I'd already use Orchestrate. But I can endure up here, and I can obviously use the shield as well. So Stalwart Defense is going to be up. If I get that block, I'll get that counter attack and I'll get that kill. So yeah, taking absolutely zero damage from these enemies bursting us. Whereas their boys, they're taking about 6. So that is probably the worst thing that can possibly happen, is some of their guys turn into chaos spawns. Now that's entirely RNG. You could get none, you could get 5, you could get more. Entirely RNG. So I'm going to use my charge to try and push up as quickly as possible. I don't want to be trying to waste time trying to take out that leftover guy. Mostly because, yeah, we're on a time limit. We can finish off stragglers and leftovers later. We need to get as close as we can to kill these enemies. Daring Breach will allow us to move up. This is why we take the movement upgrade. And then I can get up on this priest and then start whacking him. If they have high armor, it's going to be good to use the power pick. Power picks are really good. If you remember my old tier list video, I did call them high tier for a reason. And during Daring Breach, you will be able to get your 1 AP shield bash. Well, 0 AP shield bash. So now it's going to be pushing down onto these other 2 Electro Piece and then dealing with the Chaos Spawn. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Now, one of those Chaos Spawn had run down here and was fighting with Pascal, and we're going to remember everything we've learned from before, so we're still just skipping Pascal's turn. We've managed to kill the other Electro Priest, so we're no longer on the time limit. Up to 10. 10 turns. Wow. But yes, if we ignite close, it will proc those burning bloods, and then we can move away and charge in to get some more attack economy. And we could even just do direct damage here if we want to go for that, if we find out that that's doing a little bit more. Some of the Daemon Encounters, Horrors of the Warp, is going to be very useful to have on because it stops that proccing up. But we're just going to keep smacking up at this guy, and then we'll go on and pick up the last of them. And this is a pretty easy clear once you know what you're doing. It's a bit more of a knowledge check than some of the other encounters, but you don't really have to do anything cheesy to get through it. After we move out here, we can blow out these last guys. If you've already done DLC 1, that means you'll be going straight to Aurora. If not, you'll be going off to do DLC 1. I do find it easier to go to DLC 1 first to then go to here, so we have all of our abilities. But yeah, let's move on to the real Aurora. So if we stop to have a little look at some of the gear we've got on here, I'm still using Deck Officer's Helm. I'm using Ceramite Armor because more armor is better than more deflection. Pneuma Boots, Xenopelt Cloak, Avenger Gauntlets, and the Daemon Tool, along with my Force Sword and my Power Pick. So these are all going to be fairly straightforward things. I will include them to be linked in the spreadsheet below, and I will be going through the build at the end as well, rather than breaking it up here. But yeah, so Aurora, again, like I said, it's going to be a bit of a knowledge check, and there is going to be a little bit of luck about placing in the right place for turn 4. So we'll go through that. And initiative can, well, of course, reloads on this one. So you can get the well-deserved rest bonus before this, which can be quite helpful. And basically, I just stick myself out here and just aim to survive Aurora's shooting. So he does about 7 damage on those bursts, shoots 4 times, so you want to try and survive that. And if you're lucky, you'll block the sniper. If not, you'll take some damage. I'm using the Stronghold Shield, which gives me 10 HP when I block. So the aim is going to be to charge and then start some blasting. So this is also going to be the point you are going to want to ignite yourself, because you'll be able to up your damage when you're fighting Aurora, but the aim is to dive back here to try and get to the sniper. Now, I have got myself into a little bit of a pickle, but that is why we have the second of the 3 stims to be able to use here. I'm going to get my endure up. Going to orchestrate myself as well, which I need to do before I heal, otherwise I'll lose my dot. Can't still use my desperate measures, but I've got myself into a good spot to then be able to get ready to deal with the agitators. I'm also going to use stalwart defense on the melee enemies here. Bam, bam, bam. So Aurora does 12 to them. He does less than half that to me. So we need to push this sniper, and we just need to get an ignite on him. If we can get an ignite and orchestrate flame on him, yeah, he's going to be guaranteed to die. We need to get back down the stairs into the lower level for the end of turn 4 if we really want to have an easy time with Aurora. Because if you can spawn on the lower level as those enemies come out, yes, it actually becomes much easier, because they'll try to be all ranged enemies that will try to run away from you, and as they try to run away from you, you'll get attacks of opportunity, and therefore you can trigger your Daring Breach. So this is our turn on turn 4, so like I said, we want to try and get down to that lower level, which might not indeed happen. I will get myself... Oh, apparently I've lost some distance there. No, it's because I was trying to move. Anyway, ignite this chap. Then we want to try to get into position where we can. Charge onto this fella. Now, unfortunately, I am not where I want to be. I wanted to be back down those stairs. So this is why we wanted to be there, was for these enemy spawns. So once again, not a perfect run and some misplays happening. So yes, if we had managed to spawn in the middle of those 3, if you can do it in that 4th corner there, that's where you want to be. So when they take their turns, they all run away from you, you'll get attacks of opportunity, and then you will trigger your heroic actions. So as you can see, I am desperately trying to see if there is any way that I can possibly angle it to get into them, so I can ignite one of them and then Burning Blood. But it does not appear to be so. I even tried to charge and then move up, forgetting that I don't have rigorous training. They also spawn a Rebel Agitator, which is the worst. We can do some buffs here that's going to do some direct damage to Aurora, but unfortunately, yes, not being where I wanted to be, yeah, this is going to be a little bit harder. So this is where I said, if you don't play perfectly, some RNG. But these enemies, until they get the Agitator buff, they do all of 0 damage. Because we have Steel of the Forge, Aurora can't kick us down, and we will often block a lot of his attacks. One of the other things that we can do is we can actually be on the other side of Aurora to block around him, and then we can have enemies shoot him. If they get the Agitator buff, we can turn that to our advantage, and we can just back ourselves to Aurora, so the enemy las fires will actually damage him as well. At the moment, they do a hot 0 damage to us. So one of the reasons why we need to trigger Finest Hour is I found that by turn 8, Aurora would destroy the shuttles and I would lose the encounter. But if before turn 8 I was able to use Daring Breach on him, for some reason he would go longer to destroy the shuttles. It would go to turn 12. I don't know if it was because I was reloading that caused a glitch, or if that's normal behavior. Who knows? All I know is, yeah, I won when I had Daring Breach upgrade 3 instead of 4, but that's something you can respec to later. So yes, Aurora has destroyed one shuttle on turn 4, it's now round 8, and he's destroyed another shuttle. I do also now have Daring Breach, which is kind of what I wanted to get. I wanted to get that earlier. I would have had that sooner if I had positioned myself better. Anyway, we ignite to Aurora. We don't need to stack any more resolve now because we've already had our heroic act. And I am ignited and orchestrated myself, so I'm going to run over there and start whacking him. The special attack on the pickaxe would allow Aurora to take more damage, but for now I'm just going to go for as many hits as possible because we are in a DPS race to lose his encounter. Now, I end my turn, I think, here, but I really should have been trying to get around him. Because as long as I can position myself on this side, when those enemies try to shoot me, they will also shoot him. And like I said, when the Agitator's buffs up, they actually do some fairly good damage to him. So there's the Rebel Agitator buff. So now all the trash mobs will start doing some really high damage. Aurora doing 1 whole damage to us. Well, those agitators are also doing practically 0 to him. Well, we're both just too tanky, it seems. But anyway, being close and using the ignite's probably the stronger option. You saw me go for those melee attacks, but yeah, the extra damage from the ignite here, so we get 16 and 12 proc there. Now I think the Burning Blood 12 procs are probably doing more than our actual melee. We can also be moving away to charge in and out on Aurora. So we're actually, no, that's 17 and 9. That's actually, yeah, we're doing more of the melee. This is why we test. Now, Aurora does like to attack us, so that's why we use Starport the defense. See if he can attack us. A lot of these enemies, they're doing so much damage to him. But the fire damage causing him to take 15. Yeah, these guys are doing 0 at the moment. When I'm saying they're doing too much damage to him, I was being sarcastic. Oh, that one did 2. Hot 2. But yes, now we know that our melees are the primary source of damage. Charge in. I think I once again misplay. Though 15 and 12 isn't too bad. It's very similar, actually. But yes, we need to take this guy out before turn 12. The agitators killing each other. Oh, that one did 5 to Aurora. But yeah, Seal of the Forge, so that kit can't take us out. Beautiful. And to think when this guy used to be a big challenge and people were saying he was impossible and he was all scary and stuff. So, Aurora's dead. Then the rest of this counter just becomes picking up and clearing up the trash mobs. So as I pick off these enemies, this is going to be very similar to exactly what happened on Nola's run, because Nola had played the build pretty much the same way to this point. Now, the scary bit, like I said, is going to be going into Act 2, where you have to deal with Bloody Amelia as you land Footfall, so I think going Incognito is a way to play that, because you get better cover, and maybe just skipping Cinder till later. So what I'm actually going to do is, I don't want to reveal too much about Act 2, so I'll leave that for you Trepiding Explorers to find yourself, but I'm going to skip ahead to Act 3 to really show off, because we can get the Adherent of Mankind before we do our next counter with the Flames of Retribution. These are significant buffs to this build, and as you can see, we have 116 armor from Destin and Arch-Militant to use with the fencing boots. We'll keep stacking our weapon skill. We have Tactical Genius, and yeah, playing through Act 2 with this, testing, and then coming into Act 3, I am absolutely convinced that Deflection is still hot trash, armor's the way to go, and Vanguard slowly stacking Resolve might be nice to use with Malpian Shroud on late turns, but Arch-Militant clears it a lot quicker, because not only does it build armor quicker, it builds weapon score quicker, it builds up a lot of your damage quicker, it has more attack economy, it has more movement. Vanguard's main advantage is once you get that extra 15 resolve, it is quite good for Malpian Shroud, but outside of that, not the best. And Beacon of Might will help, it's just slower, but I think this one is safer because this one's actually the better tank build. You tank a lot more on this because as you build versatility, which you can build very quickly, because your single strike hits and your rock saw hits both cost 1 AP and will both build versatility, and you can even use your psych powers and mix them in with your attacks to build versatility, and you will build it very, very fast, especially if you're setting up counter attacks and using your firestorms. As you can see, I get instant retribution early, and I also pick up the eye lasers, as well as picking up the fencing boots. So once it all comes in, you'll see how nice this is. In this encounter, we do lose all of our gear, so we are a little bit down powered to just Act 1 weapons, but we do have this exceptional deadly, this exceptionally deadly power armor. They just leave openly in the chest. I don't know why Owlcat put that there. It really does trivialize this section of the game. But because of Word of the Emperor, we do build up Resolve ourselves, so like I said, we will build up Resolve slower than the Vanguard build, but we'll build up damage quicker, we'll build up temporary HP quicker via Invigoration Resolve and Malpian Shroud, and we'll also have better mobility, so we'll be able to clear more. I just think it's better. I just genuinely think everything about the Arch-Militant version is better. And like I said, one of the main key points that was a point that Nola was trying to make was how good Deflection is. I think Deflection's hot trash. On this build as well, the biggest MVP standout for me is actually getting Shield of the Emperor. I think after this encounter, I'll quickly run through some of the early bits before we just go on the victory lap. Because yes, Yremeryss and Daybreak is pretty much a victory lap for this build. Once you get to Act 3, you've won. But the main strengths of this, yeah, we'll talk about the different breakpoints. I really liked getting Reckless Rush and Wildfire early, and you do need Shield of the Emperor early. It's just a shame that I don't already have Firestorm. I want Firestorm as well. It would just make it so much better. It's almost tempting not to get Orchestrate just to get Firestorm, but then you won't be able to use Firestorm as much because obviously you need to be setting enemies on fire to use it. And you want to be on fire to be able to use it. So many things to optimize. I would love to hear other people's thoughts on this below. For those of you who've also been keeping up on, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, built up 23 deflection in this, 146 armor. That's going to keep going up every turn. They can't hurt us, and we are going to be getting peak condition soon. So yeah, this build's pretty tasty. But yes, I've been testing Psychopaster. So Psychopaster actually does less damage than using Orchestrate Flames and Inflames on the average build, with or without buffs. And I've noticed it doesn't apply to staffs. And because it doesn't apply to staffs, it's just infinitely weaker. You lose access to all of your powers and all of your identity as a Psycho. I don't see Psychopaster build being worthwhile over the Orchestrate Flames at any time. And even for coming to solo the game, yeah, this build is what does it. Yeah, Psychopath. So that was the video I was working on before I saw this Reddit post, by the way. I was testing my Pyromancy Blade Dancer versus a Psychopaster Blade Dancer that was designed to maximize it. Yeah, the damage that you get to Force Swords from the extra source of warp damage, it would have been better back when we had the big degrade defense buff, but like I said, it doesn't do as much as Inflame with Orchestrate Flames. If you're not using it Inflame, yeah, it does, but not by much. Not by much. Like, it's, yeah, it is noticeable. You'll see it if you try it out yourselves. I'll eventually cover it, but yeah, I think soloing the game was more fun. And just look at me go. Yeah, all this extra movement and the attacks, like I said, this is why I absolutely prefer Arch-Militant. More mobile, more damage, more defense. Like, what else do you want? You can even use the heavy armor in Act 2. So this is what I didn't cover, but the Zarkovian armor in Act 2, you get double fire dots. Really, really, really good. So this build is already on the spreadsheet, and this is called Fires of the Forge. Like I said, do check out Nola's because I just followed their same Act 1 here. There are things I would change, but I would leave that to you. Mostly, the only thing that I'd actually really change is Hardened Scars, but I'll leave that to you, intrepid Lord Captains, to experiment with yourself. One thing I will note is Daring Breach 4, you do want to change that here from Daring Breach 3. So Daring Breach 3 seems to help with Aurora. I don't know if I'm imagining it, but yeah, after this act, you want to change this to Daring Breach 4. So maybe I can even do that to that, just so people would be aware of that. And when you go to Act 3, you do want to change Heavy Armor to Power Armor. You could take it later, but I don't want to waste the talents. But yeah, one I get first, Shield of the Emperor. This just keeps you alive. You have so much psi rating that this just gives you enough armor and deflection to be able to just survive things. I get Dependable straight away because as you build, that's just 5 extra armor to start with, which is obviously more than what Vanguard has. And then as you build stacks versatility, that keeps going up. Get Always Ready is getting 2 points into there, focusing on weapon skill. Reckless Rush, yep, this is what we want for movement. Instant Retribution, so when we block, we counterattack. You want to be getting those counterattacks up early because obviously you're not going to be one-turning, you're not getting ally buffs. All Out, so when you start doing damage, you can start moving around, and it does work very nicely. Increasing your psi rating is going to help your defenses as well as your attacks, especially if you're using Force Swords. I actually pick up Relentless Blaze. This was very helpful with getting to those Daring Breaches. It's not something I often use, but having this meant that I could freely buff myself up. Because I was using Shield of the Emperor instead of Body of Flames, yeah, this was very useful for that. Body of Flames could be one you could put up here, but I couldn't really fit both of them in, really. Yeah, more toughness going into here. I took characteristic training Perception. This was very helpful to get enemies to stop dodging me. Without it, I found Act 3 to be an absolute challenge because every enemy kept dodging me. I would like to get it earlier, actually, instead of those willpower things, but there was nowhere that I could take it. Wildfire coming in late does feel bad, but you do need it, and I also get Fire Within, as well as Flash Fire, so I get a lot more extra attacks. One of the things that do going into Exemplar that I don't normally do, is I get Flesh Wounds. This heals me at the start of my turns, but I found at this point I was actually so tanky I didn't even need this, so you could probably drop flesh wounds. I picked up Crowd Kill and Blade of Light, though at this point I wasn't actually using it, so I could actually push Blade of Light back and maybe take something else earlier. Firestorm, yep, the second I got that, having that in Act 3, absolute godsend. You want that for the arena by the time you get into Act 3. This thing was just so fantastic. Make sure you grind Act 2 to be having level 39 for Act 3. Peak Condition, yep, huge boost of strength, absolutely fantastic. You'll see what it does because I hit level 40 just before the arena, so you'll get to see me playing with that. Melting Armor is also just very nice. Molten Beam, I liked it, but you might not actually need it. You could actually swap Molten Beam earlier and take in Flame, so I will make a note of that you can switch these around for which one you prefer. Now that I think about it, I really could swap Hardened Scars with Body of Flames, but that'll be something to test for another day. Calculated Resolve, absolutely fantastic for getting those Daring Breaches in, and by the time you sort of finish here-ish, you'll be going into Act 4, and then yeah, the victory lap begins. Critical Versatility to up your damage. Calculated Resolve gets you more access to heroics. You'll be having the Void Veteran boot, so you can pick up Impetus and Ramming Speed, and you'll get a lot of mileage out of that. Exploit Weakness is one of the Arch-Militant ones you do get to use. You don't actually use the others very much, so Contempt for the Weak and Preferred Targets and Focal Point, you don't often see much benefit on this build, so that's why I didn't pick them up. Getting Toughness Willpower is also very good. Festival Know-How, because we're using shields anyway, that turns this into weapon skill, so this really helps our crit chance, and it helps maximize it. And I pick up Edge of Dawn, Psalm of Heroes, and Hymns of Hatred, because these are all just sort of stuff that I wish I could have fit in earlier, but I really couldn't. And I picked up Shield Mastery, so I could put in Rock Swords, but you might want to try and get this in earlier. I very much liked having Backdraft, but you could possibly swap those around, because obviously Backdraft is only doing stuff when you're close. So I found Backdraft big help for Act 3, didn't even use it in Act 4. So you could actually, as soon as you leave Act 3, respec Backdraft into Shield Mastery, and then take something else later down here. Yeah, it's going to be up to you. Extermination, yeah, that was good. It's a nice little extra. Like I said, Flesh Wounds is one of those ones I took it for the self-regen just in case, but I found I just didn't need it. So you could probably drop this. I would say by level 18, you're as tanky as you need to be, and it's just picking up extra pieces of gear. And as you get the better heavy armors, you notice it a lot. And then once you have power armor, nothing can touch you. So all of the Exemplar, yeah, that's free to optimize because, yeah, the build is online here, and the build just wins the game here. And then it's just getting OP gear to do some victory laps. I've put in a lot of gear suggestions here, so as you go through the game, and yes, I found that the damage that I was doing solo without buffers was just absolutely exquisite. There are some other things you can change around. You will notice that I do that. But let's show me destroying the Drukhari arena, then let's show me destroying Yremeryss, and then I'll show you bullying Uralon and Daybreak. And I won't give spoilers for Act 5 or the new DLC, but yeah, this build also can just absolutely steamroll and one-turn them, especially if you're using Commander's Chrono. Now we have all our gear back, and our absolute walking death god is here, and this is the Pyro shield tank. Nothing can stop us. Absolutely nothing can stop us or resist us. Yeah, this is what I mean when I say this is going to be a victory lap. So as we go into here, this is a multi-phase encounter, which means any builds of stacks or whatever we build going into here will remain with us for the rest of the encounter, which is going to be pretty nice. Because I'm now always on fire, I can literally just run up to these enemies. Now that I have Spirit Drape, which is a biz item from Act 2, I can just start casting buffs and having all my stats, and I realize I've messed up my things 1 second. Now that the hotbar is fixed, we can galvanize. So Furious Assault is going to be some teleport attacks, which gives us a lot of attack economy, and we can also stack extra damage to ourselves with Crimson Haze by increasing our levels of bleeding, so be careful with that. But if you don't miss, you do some pretty good things. I mostly missed there, but I am now deep in the enemies, so Firestorm. This is why we like Backdraft, and if they hit and we block and we counter attack, we will also get some focal emitter hits. So I'm going to use the area sword to also do some good damage here. So yeah, about 300 coming in there is nothing to laugh at, and because of all of our nice little things going on here, just being in the enemies' faces and just counter attacking them and blasting them, it's just absolutely fantastic. And these enemies have immune things, so just getting an extra attack economy between those focal emitters is also very good. And yeah, we've absolutely annihilated things. That's the first part done. Let's move on to the next phase. So the next phase is going to be this chap going in here. I am using the Hemo filters as well as the Hand of the Righteousness. Hand of Righteousness, you've got to be careful because the Penance Brand, you can nerf yourself if you're doing self-damage. And Spirit Drape will be activated as long as you're in turn 1 of the combat every time the phase changes. So I am using the area attacks on the area attacking sword, as well as still using our Burning Blood and getting in here. We have lots of ways to deal damage and lots of ways to build versatility. As you can see, I have exceptional amounts of temporary HP, and I've even got some of the Onslaught amulets because we don't take the negatives. So we can freely use them. Most of your runs, you'll have like 17 of those. You've probably never used them. When our enemy here also dodges us, it also increases our damage based on our stacks of Farum. And parrying him because of the fencing boots, we get a lot of counterattacks. So blocks give us counterattacks, parries give us counterattacks. Yeah, we got them counterattacks. Now, we're going to lose access to Spirit Drape as we go into round 2, which is a bit of a shame. But we do keep all the buffs that we've built up to this point. So as you can see, woof. When he attacks us, that's going to be a lot of damage. Now, if we're struggling to actually land those hits, we can use things like just going with our Firestorm, or we can try to go with the Zero attack. So he did dodge us there, so our next attack will get some boosts, which are going to be based on our stacks of Farum, so when we do smack that one. I accidentally eye-lasered one of our own allies there. Now, because I've already built up quite a lot of self-bleed, I don't want to galvanize my augment again because it does instantly proc, and you can kill yourself with that, so be very careful. But this is going to be the fun bit. This is where we now get to bully some elves. So I'm going to activate Reckless Rush. As you can see, my stats are through the goddamn roof. I have 170 weapon skill. The main issue is that 60 perception. Because also our agility is low at 30 because we've had to make a tank build. Yeah, it's going to be hard for us to hit those elves. But that's why we have Firestorm. Because Firestorm is going to be what gets us around that. I can also galvanize, get some little extra attacks. Now, as they dodge these hits, it will give us boost to our other attacks. And any crits set them on fire. Boom. So whilst the damage is not that extraordinary, we are still just comfortably soloing unfair. Nothing can hurt us, and we are very slowly whittling things down. A few people have said that they reckon that a Warrior Executioner could do it, so they're also trying some of these single runs. So Nola has definitely inspired the community to get doing some creative things, like, well, attempting solo unfair runs. It's been a very long time since we've seen that. The boss here is going to be very hard for us to be able to hit with our Firestorms, not our Firestorms, with our normal attacks, which is why we're using our Firestorms. And I'm also going to stack up my defenses so they will struggle to do anything. I'm going to make sure Kykaros here does not lose this, and I'm actually going to use the shield to try and get counterattacks here. So as these elves try to attack us, they're going to have a bad time. Ray of Disintegration or Degradation there didn't really do any damage to us, and the Acid Spit also not really doing anything. But our block counterattacks are going to be killing some Dark Elves. Boom, boom. Focal emitters, baby. And because they're on fire, they're also taking a Warp Fire, and it's also causing nerfs to their stats. Yet these elves are having really, really bad times. Kykaros taking a lot of damage, even as we miss with then, because of our stacks of Farum on our augments, it's actually causing us to do even more damage on these counter hits. And I can very comfortably Burning Blood them a little bit. Make sure I set myself up in case they have any turns, and they are slowly dying. And then more Firestorm. Now, if I try to get both of them in range here, Backdraft would also be coming in if I made sure to stay a little bit closer as well. But yes, if I perfectly get here as well, I can also try to cleave some of my area attack coming in from the distortion. And yes, 175 armor, 19 deflection. Arch-Militant is the real tank, baby. I don't know why people keep always saying it's Vanguard. But yes, everything dead. all the mobility in the world to just keep going, keep hitting. We're not having to wait multiple turns because we're grounded to the floor. No, no, no. We take it to them. Boom. Now, we move on to the big boss of this act. So for this next one, I'm feeling that maybe Hand of Offense would be better. I will switch items around, so Hand of Offense will be on some of them, then Warp Surge Brooch on other encounters. Spirit Drape may drop in and out, but the Defense Boots, Malpian Shroud, Invigorating Resolve with all these other little items going on here is going to be the way to do it. We've also hit 6 Psi rating, so we're coming up to Yremeryss. Remember when this boss was scary? God, what a time. Anyway, I've set myself as far back from her as I can. She's going to take her turn here. One of her guys is going to go, and then because of the way initiative stack works, because we have no party, it's actually better for a tank to have no party. I'm going to move up closer, actually, to get some burning blood on this guy. So I'm obviously going to be using my 0 AP powers. I can set myself on here. I could also ignite myself to get another dot here, and then I'd have Warp Fire and Regular Fire. But whichever way you want to go, it's up to you. Like I said, this is not Revan's optimal play guide. This is Revan soloing the game an unfair guide. Furious Assault would be nice, but I'm kind of not in the right place. I've already done the 4th, so I don't know if my own bleed would hurt me. It's already direct damage. But yes, these guys will dodge a lot, and sometimes Force Couple stuff, it does go a little bit funky on those augments. But yes, so when they dodge us, this can allow us to do some other nice things. I'm actually going to use Crimson Haze here, and then I'm going to Galvanize some Furious Assault, though they are unfortunately just a little bit spread out. I probably should save this for later, but I kind of just want to. And as long as I'm remembering to change attack types, yeah, I will keep building up versatility. So I can go for the air attack, but if I think they're going to dodge, I can go for that. And I've also still got my Molten Beams now. Though we do have Max Veil, so we do want to stick to minor powers and not be, using up those major ones. Now, I didn't think that we'd get through this in one turn, which is why I didn't have Warp Surge Brooch. So the Hand of Defense is going to do more. Still got that 17 deflection, 136 armor. They're going to struggle to do anything here. They're going to use those Bloodstones, so they're going to be a safe distance from us, which is funny because they go with the area attacks, so we don't get counter-attacks, but that means that I can very safely Firestorm and they can't revenge attack me. They're only doing about 18 damage here. I'll probably heal more than that when my turn starts. And Yremeryss is going to summon the turrets. What is nice though, because of these multi-phase encounters playing solo, I actually get to use steady superiority as well as daring breach, and it's very rare that you get to activate both heroic, so that just feels nice, man. Anyway, yeah, these guys are doing laughable damage. I'm not getting my counterattacks via my shield and my parries, like I said, because they're a cell away. I can't reach. Anyway. So I started Firestorming. Probably should get a little bit closer. But yes, so Wildfire. This is why I like the Arch-Militant version more, because more attack economy. More attack economy, more attacks, more fun, more do stuff, and because I also got the hook arms, I've got the charges, there's just a lot you can do. I'm actually going to use a stim here, because I reckon I want to be using some AP here, because I can be getting these kills. So I'm going to try and yank that guy over here, which will cause me to get some extra attacks, which, because of Fire Within, gives me another attack. Get the kill. I could easily charge here. Potentially I could even just orchestrate him and then activate for my Daring Breach. Burning Blood actually being useful. What a world. I could even use the Onslaught. God, there's genuinely options. Nowhere I can charge to yet. But I could charge back in on this guy just for the sake of doing it. That's probably the worst possible option I could have picked there. But I don't care. Anyway, so Yremeryss, I can ignite her, which will again build up some versatility. Can then try to single strike her. Now, because of her dodges, that's where she's going to be pretty hard to deal with. I will shield bump her. Get those eye lasers. Now, I'm also going to make sure that she can't get rid of the burning. Yeah, that burning sensation is going to be with her for a while. Now, we do have access to Onslaught. We do have access to Scorcher. Scorcher could allow me to use a Firestorm. But for now, I'm actually just going to go over the block. And I'm going to hope a lot of these enemies rush in on me so I can actually get additional attack procs from Fire Within. So yep, the Grotesque is going to get parried and then counter hit. And he gets hit pretty damn hard. He then gets blocked, counter hit, and shot. The other Grotesque is going to be going up. Damn, we are still only on round 3, aren't we? It is interesting to see these rounds progress. And yeah, 22 deflection now. So Yremeryss is going to make her turn. She's going to try to run away, take 300 damage for running away from me. And then I'm going to kill him by just using a Psycho Power. Now, we can pop this on Yremeryss, because the reason I want to do that is to activate her next phase. So she gets a interrupt phase when her health gets hit to a certain point, and then she'll reset. Yeah, we have now triggered that. Her dodge is just still so damn good. Really should be just sticking to Psycho Powers on her. For now, I'm actually going to go try and kill some of the other little dudes because, yeah, killing off these guys will actually help us pick up some momentum. I just realized my momentum bar has disappeared from my screen. I can also go for a Molten Beam here. Now, that was scary because I just realized, yeah, with the veil disappeared there, I couldn't see if that was going to trigger a hit thing because that's a major power. Yeah, if you hit escape with that, just open the menu and close it, it normally fixes that. Look at these guys getting to make attacks. Look how happy they are. Anyway, power, parry, counter. Damage is getting boosted up as she hits into us. And look, see, look, we got our study superiority. We got to activate both heroics. Isn't that fun? Anyway, moving around Yremeryss so I can get into position to Firestorm. Yep. And it's minor power, so it can't trigger Perils or the Warp. Then we Wildfire to try an area attack. Oh, yeah, she's dead. Up to a nice 400. And, yeah, now it's just playing cleanup. We're just going to zip around the map and kill everything. We can freely swap between Firestorm and our single target attacks. Just keep building up versatility. But, yeah, easy wins. As we finish cleaning up, the last two of the Grotesques that have come from the lower level have come up. So I'm going to get in their face and start casting some Firestorms. If they hit me and I block them, I do get Shield Bash and Instant Retribution. However, if I parry them, it doesn't counterattack during my turn. I don't make the rules, it's just the way it works. But, yeah. Dead. Act 3 done. So, like I said, we won't get spoilers of Act 5 or even some of the DLC stuff there. But what I will show you is, I will show you Act 4, because at this point, everyone's seen the big burb die. Act 4 is quite easy because you have access to Commander's Chrono, but I thought I would show off not using it. You can secondary rock swords, and single attacks from your rock swords, then single attacks from your swords will stack versatility. So yeah, let's show this off as the last concluding clip here. Also, if you have enjoyed this video and you do use my spreadsheets, do remember to watch and like the videos. Leaving likes and comments and stuff like that helps the channel grow, so yeah, I appreciate it much. And yeah, get ready because even this full-on burst here, which is something that can RNG kill the Blade Dancer XE build, isn't going to take out my Pyro Warrior. This is where we get to do all the fun things. So I'm going to orchestrate flames on myself here. I'm going to also use Inflame because we get this fully on. Like I said, you can switch between Inflame and Molten Beam. Depends on where you want it. Might be more useful to have it earlier because it will help with your basic attacks. But you do start one turning in Act 4 as you would do normally. I hope this really does highlight when I say that builds really should be online in Act 1, Act 2 should be when you complete them, and Act 3 should be when you're already doing your victory laps, because if I can do all of that one act later, solo, if you've got a full team of buffers to do it, yeah, you are falling behind. But what is kind of funny, but also a little bit disappointing, is I haven't actually optimized this. There is a lot more optimization that you could do to make this entire setup stronger. And if you have any ideas for it, I would love to see those comments. But yeah, and I'm going to cut off any meme comments that say Psychopaster. No, Psychopaster is not good. It's low tier for a reason. But yes, this build, however, this is like a true tank build, and this is the best way to tank. And like I've been saying for the longest time, the tank archetype is Arch-Militant. It's not Vanguard. Vanguard is just a very, very slow gimmick. Honestly, Vanguard does need a bit of a rework. There's just, yeah, it's too slow to get going on. You need to get hit 15 times to get your 15% extra armor, which will also give you 15%, well, 15 extra resolve. But I can build that up by, if I just put on Face of the Sovereign and just killed a bunch of people, and I could build that up quicker than trying to get attacked back. And because of Invigorating Resolve, which does need a nerf and it does need hard caps, yeah, my damage is just absolutely insane, even solo. If I come in here with an impetus charge, I've seen builds that need at least one buffer to look like this, and I've seen builds that can have 5 buffers and still not do this kind of damage that I'm just doing raw solo. Just absolutely fantastic. But now that we have access to the Void Veteran boots, any melee kill will give us an infinite charge, and because of that, these items are exceptionally overpowered. Too overpowered, one might even say, because yeah, I just very, very freely walk through any of this map. The enemies did have a chance to attack, but it's not like it even really matters because my damage is so high at this point. They can't stop me. They genuinely can't stop me. I feel like a lot of the enemies in Act 4, they feel like they're Act 2 strength, and I am no longer Act 2 strength, and that seems to be the main difference. Like, I just did 4 attacks there, each one of them doing well over 1,000 damage. So I hit probably, what, 4,000 to 5,000 damage. I've seen videos that clickbait those damage numbers, and I'm playing solo with no buffers. But yeah, who's ready to see a big chicken die? As we come to the end of what is probably one of the biggest videos I've ever posted, and it took a lot of time to do and set all of this up and do a full run like this, and even then it was just using save backups I made. Every run I create save backups like this, so I can do stuff like this. I test everything thoroughly, so all my opinions are based on actual testing, and I do it every DLC, I do early access, and I do a lot of feedback for the developers in terms of just explaining them to bugs and all sorts of little things. So yes, anyone who is interested in this stuff, if you are inspired to do it, do go find Nola's post, like I said, and do let Nola know that they have inspired you to also do the same thing. And if you do want to get in and chat up and do anything about these builds or optimizing yourself, do join the Discord, which is also linked below. There are lots of other people that are going to be trying this stuff out. But yes, that's it. Big chicken down. Didn't even use all my drugs. Still had the Onslaught one there. But yeah. Pyro tank build, babies. Fires of the Forge. You'll see it on the spreadsheet. I've been Revan619, and this was me once again soloing the game.